All right, beautiful friends. Today we're going to be talking about the eclipses. And I just wanted to share some ideas with you guys, things that have been coming into my mind, thinking about it, pondering it, like this Pisces and Virgo, what are we talking about? What are these massive changes that are coming towards us? Because that's what the eclipses generally denote. And the nodes are always talking about creating a chaotic situation where from that, a transformation comes through. So this Virgo Pisces axis is supposed to transform that area of our life. Look at where the house, where this axis is in your chart, is talking about breaking through regarding the topics of those houses, as well as things that we need to let go. But while thinking about this, something that came into my mind when we think about change, like I want to make a change, we make it ceremonious. We want to attach a lot of meaning to it. But my question to you is, does life inherently has meaning, or is that some capacity within us that does this? And I think a lot of the pain that comes through the eclipses, let's say, when these kinds of transformations come about, they're painful because we don't have meaning designation yet. And the sign of Pisces has a lot to do with depth of knowledge. And what that depth is pertaining to is our ability to have a depth of meaning, which that gives us a sense of purposefulness. So these are the things that are being compromised. And these are the things that I want to talk about, and maybe some life lessons that we can draw from this eclipse and not just anticipating what will happen to me in my life. And before getting into the video, if you enjoyed the content of this video, please do like, subscribe, and comment. You guys know I love your comments. And for my readings, the links are below this video. So this total lunar eclipse that we're having in the sign of Pisces on the 7th, it involves Moon, Rahu, and Saturn, who just ingressed into the sign of Pisces. And on the other side of the axis in Virgo, we have Sun and Ketu, where Mercury just ingressed into its exaltation point. And you know what? We can think of Virgo as making plans. It's about creating system and clinging onto those systems and keep trying to make them better and more perfect. It's about making order out of what would otherwise be absolute chaos. During the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, because we have Ketu in the sign of Virgo, a lot of what we're going through is about detachment from these systems that we've set, the system that bring order into our life. And if you think about it, we've been building these systems for the past 9 years. That's the last time when Rahu was in the sign of Virgo. So Rahu wanted to take us into the future, and that future required new categories, new systemizations. So we've been working hard to create those pathways for the past 9 years. We've decoded life. We have renamed things, named things, differentiated, connected things, organized things to move through what we call our life. In other words, we spent the past 9 years charting the course of where we were going. And from that, we have extracted a lot of meaning and our sense of purpose. And now with Ketu there, just ever so casually, it's like, let it go. It's time to detach. Those systems that you created are no longer an application for your current life. So Ketu has been showing us ever since it moved into the sign of Virgo how our map is broken, because we keep following it. And the map is saying, this is the pathway, that's the destination, the treasure's there. We're going through those pathways, we get there, and there's no treasure. We just had this enormous energy expenditure without the outcome that we're seeking to have. So we feel unsettled, unhinged. So the clarity that Virgo used to hold, it's no longer there. And much of our difficulties is coming from that right now. Like Saturn moved into the sign of Aries, that idea of ignition and starting, all of it gets stalled in the sign of Aries because of Saturn's debilitation. But at the same time is making it uber hard because Ketu, which is at a position where it's at a blind to this Aries sign, it's like we're having false ignition, our map doesn't work, things are just not matching right now. So in a lot of ways, we're feeling that our sense of reality, what's real to us, is slipping through our fingers. And this is not just happening in our personal life. We can see this with the news, with the AI-generated content. We're seeing this in every domain of life. Reality checking based on the categories that we do have are just non-applicable. And it's also worth remembering, across the sky, in the sign of Pisces, that first eclipse, we have Moon, Rahu, and Saturn. And we can think about Pisces as the vast ocean of our lives. And Moon here represents our minds, our memories, what we've retained within. our emotions. And having Rahu here, which amplifies things, it's creating an emotional overwhelm, recollection of things that really used to matter to us. And Rahu is also intensifying the hunger for our minds to have things make sense. We're not comfortable with sitting in a liminal space where things are falling apart and not making any sense right now. There's an urgency in us to find a sense of meaning, a greater purpose, a higher calling. And then at the same time, we have Mr. Saturn sitting there, which is bringing a feeling of this is a heavy karmic time, and it doesn't seem to give a damn about how we feel, pun intended. Saturn in Pisces is like the great dam in the cosmic ocean, but it's also not giving a damn about that moon because it's bringing a sense of coldness and detachment like Ketu on the other end. So right now, the feeling is like stuck in the middle of a vast ocean with endless waters and knowing that we don't have anything in our toolbox, any system that we know of that can change this vastness all around us. And because we don't understand it, we also don't understand how to navigate through it. So nothing is holding us except this little raft that we're in. And we are feeling claustrophobic. We are feeling exhausted. So this is one of the reasons why that first lunar eclipse can feel like an emotional crisis. And the crisis is essentially coming from the fact that our rational mind feels very out of sorts. It's hard to depend on the old ways of doing things. It's almost as if the past 9 years, everything that we set into place has collapsed into the waters of Pisces and is just dissolving. And it's dissolving into an ocean, into nature that is completely indifferent to us. And of course, none of this is ever comfortable. And the funny part is, right now, a lot of us are thinking back like, how the hell did I end up in this situation? It's very hard to pin it down because incrementally we set these pathways through the last 9 years. In a sense, we have arrived very unceremoniously. And in many ways, the past 9 years is also departing from us very unceremoniously. So this first lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces, which has to do with depth of knowledge, not only brings emotional crisis, but because of the emotional crisis is bringing a crisis of meaning, which is the realization that the old is slipping away. And what makes it even more difficult is not knowing what's ahead. So that meaning-making process can't take place yet either. And this gets a hell of a lot more intense with the second eclipse, which is on September 21st when we have Sun, Moon all conjunct with Ketu, which is the point of the eclipse. And of course, on the other hand, we have Rahu and Saturn still roaming around there. And this second solar eclipse, a partial eclipse, that one is like the first one, we're just feeling it emotionally, we're feeling it internally. The second one's going to have manifestation in our actual life. And we have to remember Sun in Virgo has a lot to do with our sense of clarity because this is what the Sun does in whatever house or sign that it goes into. So our ability to see things clearly and to orient ourselves clearly is being eclipsed. And on the other hand, we have the moon there, right? Because the sun and the moon are conjunct. They're creating a new moon, but now with an eclipse. So what's being eclipsed here is that sense of emotional order that we need to be functional, where that emotional order is coming from our daily routines, the ways we have habituated certain ways of being in our life, things we do to regulate our emotions, to meet our desires, things that make our mind and our heart feel content. And this eclipse is just making it all feel out of sort. And this is because of Ketu, because Ketu is forcing us to detach. That's what Ketu signifies. It's the loss of names, loss of definition, loss of control, the loss of meaning that we had designated to things to be able to survive and to thrive. But I do want to say this, I don't want it to get too gloomy. Mercury is still in Virgo and it's exalted. So Mercury right away, it's going to get into the hard work of renaming things, redefining things. Right off the bat, it's going to help us to understand something. And from that something, we'll be able to make meaning out of it. But the process to it almost feels inhumane in some ways. And Rahu's push to the future right now says, no, you don't have a map. You don't get a map. You don't get to pack neatly. You don't get to close the last chapter ceremoniously. You don't get to say goodbyes. You are simply to move forward. And we're putting Saturn there, where Rahu is also, it's bringing a sense of coldness to this. It feels unfair, forced. So as you can see, all of it is super uncomfortable. The eclipses are generally uncomfortable because this is what they're doing. They're changing the old by making us let go that Ketu concept. And for us to move towards the future, sometimes we need our butt kicked to do that. Otherwise, we're comfortable where we're at. So some of the things that we can focus on right now, some questions we can ask, the way that we can cast our attention on our life. Think about your life right now. Where are you looking for a proper goodbye? A proper acknowledgement of the work that you've done, a proper apology, where you're hoping for a ceremonious closure that's loaded with meaning. And a lot of us are grappling with this kind of a feeling. It's like on the edge of, if I only have this right now, then everything has meaning. Everything will be in its rightful place. And for some reason, it's just not coming together. And what I'm trying to say here right now is that we are being asked to let go and being okay to let go without acknowledgement, maybe even of the hard work that we've put into things, the way we've invested ourselves in the past 9 years. It's good to give into this because this eclipse season is unlikely to give us that kind of a closure right now. It will eventually because we have Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. We are very much subconsciously right now involved in the meaning-making process and having a sense of purpose. But if we sit back also and if we really think about this beyond like what is going to happen to me and what is my life about, it's showing us something about the nature of life itself. If you think about it, life itself is unceremonious, and this expectation that we have of life to be ceremonious, for us to be acknowledged and validated all the time, this is not how life itself works. In some ways, life in itself doesn't have a meaning until we inject meaning in it. Like as humans, we live off of meaning. It's our lifeblood, but existence and life, they don't need meaning to exist and to be. They seem to just merely unfold based on some rules, some principles that are of the core nature of existence and nature itself. They're indifferent to us. And I want you to think about this. If you disagree, death arrives unceremoniously. My own grandma passed away on June 1st. On 23rd, I went to see her. She was up, she was fine, and she had this discoloration on her shin. And within matter of 8 days, her entire circulation to her leg stopped and she passed away. On July 1st, one of our cats died, like 4 days. He looked a little bit off. We woke up one morning, he looked like he was in a lot of pain, and by the end of the day, he was gone. So death is unceremonious. It doesn't announce itself, nor does it come in and acknowledge your pain after it occurs, nor does it acknowledge the person who has left. Like some of us fall out of love unceremoniously. You see this with people all the time. They just wake up one morning and they announce, I'm done with this relationship, and then they're gone. After years and years of the other person investing their life force into that relationship. You can lose a job unceremoniously after working there for decades. And you know what? Even when we think about our so-called triumphs, we arrive to them without ceremony. We think there are ceremonies, but in itself, there is no ceremony there. It's us that are constantly giving things meaning. And by attaching a ceremony to it is the act of giving meaning. We also, for example, fall in love unceremoniously. And a year later, we attach a ceremony called an anniversary. Then we have an engagement, and then we have a wedding. So in itself, life is just occurring as life does. Biology is occurring as biology does. But we human beings, as these meaning-making machines, we're making significance of it. Even if you think about athletes, they've gone to the Olympics, they've won the gold medal. They just ran faster than someone else. That entire ceremony that goes with it, the acknowledgement that comes with it, that is part of our meaning-making process, designating value to certain things, giving a greater sense of purpose. And the point that I'm trying to make, life and existence doesn't need these ceremonies to survive. It's how we survive. We need funerals, birthdays, victories, and rituals. And that's what's being denied to us right now. So in a lot of ways, we feel like our survival is at jeopardy right now. And we can't take this notion of ceremony lightly because it's giving us categories of the mind. It's defining different spans of time. Without these, life's rawness and its indifferent feels like it's crushing us. Ceremony is giving shape to what existence delivers without shape. Meaning is what gives us a way to coexist with the indifference of time. Meaning is what's making you right now make sense of this video and how I'm relating this topic to astrology. This is a human faculty where so much of our happiness, joy, and even survival depends on it. So this is the challenge of our life right now. So it's not only about letting go of what has made sense or what's made our life make sense for the past 9 years, but the struggle right now to give the unknown that's coming up, that Rahu, the tiger at the precipice of the jungle, taking us into the jungle. And what's coming forth is about how do we make meaning for that? Because we have not been into that territory. And when something's new, the first thing that's evoked is fear. But we have to create routines again. We have to get new patterns. And through that kind of a ritualistic movement, we can extract meaning. So the question right now is, how do we let go of the old? And how do we recognize what's coming forth? How can we give them the right name? And as I was saying, Mercury movement through Virgo will very much help us with that initial condition that we're facing and the process of renaming things again. And as we name things, as we figure things out, how do we create new ceremonies? Because nature might not need them, but we do. And I want to connect this eclipse to another placement happening in the skies right now, which is Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. So Ketu in Virgo is bringing about all kinds of detachments, dissolving things, forcing us to let go. Life is making us let go of a lot of things. So Virgo is dissolving and detaching us from our old ways of knowing. And Rahu is pushing us to new territories where we don't have a name for it yet. Hence, there's no meaning. There's no sense of purpose yet. But the saving grace here is Jupiter is making its 5th and 9th aspect. So trines to both Rahu and Ketu from its exaltation. And Rahu is in Jupiter's sign because it's in the sign of Pisces. So we can think of Jupiter as a positive function within us right now, within our interiority, and it's reshaping our inner space. Because just imagine that our inner space is all like these sets of wiring, and these electrical nodes are being sent through these wirings, which sends us to eat that thing, which makes us feel this when that happens. The routines and patterns, just the way that we've been configured. So Jupiter is in there rewiring, reconfiguring, and there's been so much condensation for the past 9 years. Jupiter's like, this is excess, that's excess. I'm just gonna maybe bunch these together. So I open this space and put these things together. So it's rewiring our inner being. And this reshaping of our inner self is allowing us to formulate new meaning. And from that, we can have new ceremonies, new ways of celebrating our victories. And we can only celebrate our victories if we can recognize them as such. So Jupiter is helping us do that. And what I can say about these eclipses, by the time we're done with it, we still have a number of them left. We are going to feel different. Our internal self and how we understand the world is going to be different. And those parts of life related to this axis, again, look at the house, that's going to be transformed also. And you know what? Maybe we will not get to say goodbye the way that we want to. We do not get the closures that we want. And you know what I've learned is that in life, because our heart and our minds as human beings is wired to be ceremonious, and because our being needs meaning to survive, to exist, and to thrive, even in this moment where it might start to feel very chaotic for some of us, we can still be ceremonious, which is to have a sense of gratitude. The world may not acknowledge us, but we can acknowledge the world. Gratitude for where we've been, for who we met, what has come of it, who we've become because of it, for everything that we've done and got to experience. Gratitude in itself is a kind of a ceremonious way of being, which allows us to have meaning and a sense of purpose. And we can also have gratitude for the unknown that is ahead of us, even though it might feel very scary, but the future always is, because we have not accessed it yet. So we do have power in this moment. As much as we might feel powerless, we have the ability to create our own closures because we can acknowledge where we've been, what we've done, where we are. And that's exactly what Mercury is going to help us with, and where it is probably going to start. When it passes this eclipse mark, passes Ketu, and it's going to have a Kazemi with the sun. I will make another video talking about that because that one's pretty important. I mean, every Mercury cazimi is important, so worth talking about. And we can always remember that we have our benefic, beloved Jupiter there, who's also helping us. So there's a cosmic force that's with us, something to also be grateful for. And in the meanwhile, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. And for your own personal reading, you can go to the links below this video in the description box, and I'll leave you with this wish. May you give yourself the gift of goodbye when none is offered. May you create your own ritual of thanks, even when no one else bears witness. And may you discover, in shaping this ceremony, in building meaning where existence has given you none, you are not diminished, but strengthened. And I say this because the truth of these eclipses, and perhaps of life itself, is that what walks away from us without ever looking back does not erase our story. It's only asking us to become the one who carries it forth with dignity, with meaning, and with love. And again, there we are powerful, even though during these eclipses, we might feel powerless for a moment. And that's it for today. Sending you much love. Till next time.